The golden time for Chinese American restaurants is basically the entire 20th century going into today. My name is Peter Kim. I am the executive director of the Museum of Food and Drink. We decided to do an exhibition on Chinese American restaurants because it is a story that everybody can relate to. If you're here in the US, no matter where you are, there is likely a Chinese American restaurant not very far from you. The exhibit that's right behind me, which is a giant curtain of takeout boxes, actually represents the sheer number of Chinese American restaurants that we have in this country. Each box represents 7 restaurants, and altogether it represents the estimated 50,000 Chinese American restaurants that exist in the US. Now, just to put that in perspective, that is over 3 times the number of McDonald's that there are in the US. What people might not realize is that there is nearly 170 years of history and a lot of hardship and, quite frankly, some inspiring ingenuity and perseverance that lies behind all of these restaurants. Early on, the primary influence on Chinese American restaurants were from Cantonese immigrants. They were the ones who first came to work in the gold rush and on the railroad. Once the Chinese Exclusion Act was in place, that actually really stifled immigration from China after that. In fact, it was illegal to come. And so for a long period of our nation's history, the only Chinese who were in the US were pretty much only Cantonese immigrants. And it wasn't until the Hart-Celler Act in 1965 that the US started to actually lift its restrictions on Chinese immigration. And then you had Chinese coming in from Hunan, Sichuan, other areas of China, and influencing the menu from there. The first dish that became a really popular hybrid dish was chop suey. Actually, its full name is chow chop suey. Translates to stir-fried jumbled fragments. This is a dish that was made primarily by Cantonese immigrants for each other. And then in the late 1800s, you had 19th century hipsters in New York City who discovered this dish in Chinatown. From there, it became this sort of cool thing to know where to go to get chop suey. It became a national fad. Once the Chinese saw how successful it was to actually take this dish that is a traditional Chinese dish and just adapt it to make it something that people who aren't from China would enjoy and find more familiar, that sort of set off a light bulb that, well, maybe if we could do this with other dishes, and indeed they did. You know, in every case on the menu in a Chinese American restaurant, these dishes have changed quite a bit indeed. But what's important to recall is that it is indeed not Chinese food. It's best thought of as Chinese American cuisine. It's something that was invented in the US. Here at the museum, we're always keen to encourage people to not think of Chinese American food as some sort of fake Chinese food, because it's just not. It's just a different cuisine. But the other thing is that people often forget that Chinese American food actually does have very tangible roots in China. Almost every dish on the menu has an equivalent in China. It's just gone through quite a process of transformation that makes it something that appears very different now. Any American who grows up in the US knows this cuisine, grew up with it, and often you think of it as a comfort food. And it's one of these things, it's just like pizza, hot dogs, hamburgers that people, when they're abroad, look back at and kind of have some nostalgia for. Chinese food is American food.